right?
Sarah Brennan is already here. Hi, Sarah. Welcome. Sarah wrote me a very nice email today about my newsletter. Shout out to Sarah for the feedback.
Forward to you.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
Ever forward.
Well, I was just, I'm going to wait till everybody jumps on so we can talk about format. But does anybody have anything they're going to like present or anything? And probably not, right? Like nothing,
No.
nothing to share.
I'm just going to smile and ask questions.
Cool. Here. I just sent you the thing, Clark.
Oh, you sent it in chat.
Nope, I didn't. I sent you the wrong thing. Give me a second.
And y'all got to come to the networking mixer tomorrow. We're teaming up with the design UX group of Aaron Smith and Lena Levine.
Oh, great.
4 o'clock.
Yeah, should be fun.
Very nice.
We even have a slam poet. Come on.
Oh, that's cool.
I really enjoyed the David Cohen event today. I don't know if anybody else was there.
Oh, that was good.
I'm going to watch the taping of it. I was giving a talk for some SMBs on the east side during that time.
Nice.
Talking about product photography. I haven't done product photography in a long time, so that was an interesting one. My slide deck had 2 slides that basically said, "Don't do this." Like one slide was like, "Use mock-ups," and then the other one was like, "Hire someone in who knows where to do your post-production for $1 an image." Because people always want to do everything, and I'm like, you're a small business owner, you have better things to do than retouching your photos, because you won't be as good at it as they are, and it'll cost you $5, so just pay them.
That's true.
Thanks again for coming, guys. Appreciate you being on the panel. I'm excited to see how it goes.
I'm just
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah.
Hey, where are you guys going to put all of the recordings? Because there were a couple that I wanted to attend, and then I was like, oh my God, my week just sucked. So I was like double booked for anything that I wanted to attend.
Yeah, I think we're still trying to figure out. So we're just going to let the week go by. Everybody's trying to just host their events. And at the end, we're going to come together, take our recordings, and figure out where to put them. I know we discussed using a Memory Fox, or what's the other one, Clark?
Their story.
Zach. So
yeah, Zach Ellis.
So we're just going to figure out what channel to use.
Okay, cool. And then we can maybe link that from the startup community website too.
Yeah.
we'll let everybody know.
Cool. Okay, nice.
Yeah. Just going to shoot a reminder to the other panelists.
Go out. Did it remind people to the whole channel?
Yeah, no, I asked everybody to come in like 15 minutes early, just in case. We had
just a channel reminder. I can drop one in if it isn't in.
No, I have it ready to go. I was just gonna wait till like a little bit, but yeah, I could do that.
You spin a lot of plates. Guy's good.
He is. All about time, organization, and management.
What'd you say, Zach? Time organization?
Time management and organization.
Virtual assistants.
That helps too.
Here.
Well, Zach, know that you have a lifetime invite to the block party. If and whenever we get back to that again,
I might check cleared then.
We'd be doing it right about. Oh, yeah, not that Central Park thing.
I send my check to them every year.
Not after I read that last.
I think we got all the panelists on.
That house sold in 2 days.
Boom.
Yeah, it was crazy. We had 17 showings in 48 hours and sold for. And Pete Romano's next door sold for 710.
Way over ask. I don't know how these things are going to praise out, but oh well. Hey,
Good for him, man.
let him in the hood.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's a good hood.
Hey, Jack. Hey, Ken.
Hi there.
Hey, how you doing? I'm trying to close all my windows.
Hey, Ken, pleasure to meet you.
Good to officially see you, Ken.
Yeah, nice to see you as well.
Just heard your voice.
Can you? Can
Yeah.
you hear me?
Yep. Can we do a quick little audio test? Everybody's good?
Yeah, what do you want to do? Sing?
Sure.
Only you.
Right, only me. Only me and my falsetto.
Oh, that's the song you have to sing.
What are
Only,
you going to sing?
only the crooner.
Cool. I think we're good. you don't have to sing, Jack. You can if you want.
No,
He's grabbing a mic.
no, I'm not. I'm trying to charge my phone. I swear to gosh, I've been sitting on my ass so long today. Fucking meetings. It's driving me nuts.
Just a wait, hold on. Heads up. We are live. We are live. Just letting you know.
Classic Greco.
How many people we got? We got 10 people on,
No,
right?
This is actually what makes startups succeed. Just
No, we got 3 people watching right now. And then more will jump on in a little bit.
Yeah, we are 6
I
minutes
didn't-
before air.
I didn't know how to keep people off, and that's definitely all me.
I take full responsibility for our attendance.
Yep.
Oh man.
Oh, there we go. Okay, gotcha.
So yeah, I'm bummed I missed the. Jack, were you on the talk at noon with Cohen and from Techstars and Zanoff and Jenny Fielding?
I wish. I literally have 2 conferences. I'm supposed to be in this RISE conference, which is like a GPLP summit today too, that I just found out about. I haven't been on anything. Did it go well?
Yeah, everyone said it was really good. So, I don't know. Ken, thanks for coming out to Buffalo. Easier than getting you on a flight, but I'm glad to have you here for sure.
That's one of the great things about these about conferences in general. You know, my observation is that the participation and the willingness of people to play has jumped dramatically because I don't have to leave my office. I can sit here at home and pipe in from anywhere.
Well, it's great. We're working really hard, building the ecosystem in Buffalo, and so it's great to have outside voices, kind of share their expertise. And I was looking at your LinkedIn profile between your venture capital work, and then you're a board member on a lot of great companies too. So you're a busy man.
I say I've lived a lot of lives. I have a lot of lives. That may be a function of age, or just I don't know. Being in the right place at the right time. But yeah, I'm an inch wide and a mile deep.
I was trying to write an intro for you, and I just couldn't put it all there, so I gave up. Just so you know.
That's the entrepreneurial spirit, Kanishka. Just give up if it's too hard. There you go. This is too difficult. Someone else will take care of it.
I think just say, Ken, that's enough. That works.
There's a guy up here, Tom Golisano, who is the founder of this company called Paychecks. And he was I sit on the board of a hospital, and he donated to it. And you go around the room, and everybody says who they are, and he goes, "My name's Tom Golisano, and I'm Italian." And that was all he said. And like everybody thought it was, because everyone's like, "This is who I am," and they like started going through all their stars on their chest, and like you realize if you don't say that much, people really know that like you probably are somebody. So.
Well, the problem is that if everybody introduces themselves, by the time they're done, you don't have any time to actually, talk to any, say anything, or answer any questions.
I know. Clark and I were talking about, we did this ecosystem development thing for a while where like we were meeting with tons of people, and we were like, why don't we just record the first 5 minutes of every conversation we have? Because it's the same damn thing every single time. And be like, 5 minutes before, you need to watch this, right? Or whatever, because I can't tell you how many times I get on the phone and people are like, so what are you up to? And I'm like, I write a newsletter every week about what I'm up to. What are you up to? I haven't gotten your newsletter, right? You know, like. It's funny. Yeah, it's funny. So.
I mean, if only we had something like LinkedIn to read.
Yeah, I know.
Do you see LinkedIn is doing stories now?
Yeah,
Like
I was
TikTok?
not excited about that.
Like, it was like, I don't know. I still haven't downloaded TikTok. I'm trying to make it all the way until they get banned.
I like.
So
I
it's
like,
cool to have because it's illegal. So it's content.
I like the stories because it makes LinkedIn a little personal, and I think that's a little bit more true to the
Yeah. And there are certain things where, I probably would want to, just post it in a story and not have it be on the static feed.
right.
Pretty cool.
Cool. I think we're gonna start in 2 more minutes. I know we got a lot of awesome speakers here, so want to start right away so we can stay within time.
Nish, can I just shot you a Slack too? Just a heads up.
Cool.
Like that snowman you drew in the back, Jack.
Oh, you like that? It's part of my mental therapy I have to go through. I have to create a. No, I'm joking. Jack made that. I have a 5-year-old boy.
I know he did.
Yeah. You should see you can't actually see the other one. The other one is a very tall skeleton that he taped like 4 pieces of paper.
Ooh,
Nice.
I know.
that's crafty.
Yeah. No, I'm sitting at my kitchen counter. I mean, his stuff's everywhere. I mean, this is how you know it's a bachelor's house. Is like there's stuff that's been taped on the windows since last Halloween, and it's Halloween again. And I'm like, this is perfect. Why didn't they just leave the stuff up all year? So.
You don't have to buy any expensive artwork. You've got it covered.
Right. You know, it's funny. I met a guy on Etsy like a while ago, like 3 years ago, and I liked the way he drew stuff. And I go, hey, can you draw me something different? He goes, sure. He's like, $10. And I liked it. I was like, and I just asked him, at this point, he's given me over 200 drawings at $10 each. And I give him away his gifts. I'm like, how do you get a piece of like custom artwork for $10?
Gosh.
It's all Sharpie and watercolor. It's beautiful. I'll show you some of them later. They're really nice.
Awesome. All right, guys. I think it's 5 o'clock. We're ready to get started. We have a few attendees. I know people will start rolling in. Thanks everyone for being here. The Startup One-on-One track, we have the panel discussion for 5 reasons why startups succeed. The idea for this event was inspired by a study done by Bill Gross at IdeaLabs. They basically researched 100 of their best performing startups and 100 of their failed startups and try to find like the defining factors of success. And the 5 that they came up in order of importance was timing, team, idea, business model, and funding. So I thought it'd be cool to have a discussion, around that topic with people that are here who have experienced kind of the entire life cycle of a startup at certain degrees. We've got a really, awesome list of speakers from being founders, mentors, investors, advisors, the whole spectrum. So really excited to have you guys here. I wanted to do more of an introduction, but for the sake of time, I'm going to try to keep it short. All of your accolades are crazy, so a little overwhelming here. We have Zach Snyder, partner at Agency 15 and Roos Pierogi. We got Kate Huber, co-founder of Cloud Insight. Ken Dunman, venture partner at Sway Ventures and board member of Costco, Motorola Solutions, and the Linden Club. Jack Greco, founder of Keeple Ventures, One Link Ventures, writer for the Buffalo Bridge, and many more, as you guys know. And then we have Clark as the moderator from Techstars, big driving force behind the Western New York startup community alongside Jack. Thanks everybody for being here. And thanks for all of our guests and attendees as well for coming to watch. Clark, why don't you take it away, and why don't you start us off by kind of talking a little bit about timing.
Yeah, market timing. Woohoo! This is a lesson that I've learned the hard way several times in my career. I think that so when you're thinking about your startup and your revolutionary idea, it's always important to consider your audience and consider their willingness to adopt technologies. So if you're a B2C company, oftentimes if you're into it, there's other people who are into it as well, and you can make those sales like as you invent the technology. However, if you're targeting enterprise or government sales, usually it needs to have been in the market and vetted thoroughly before you're able to pick up some of those sales. So for instance, I have been working in the virtual reality and augmented reality industry for 10 years. And during that 10-year period, everyone thought it was about to break every year. Like, oh, this is it. This is the year for VR. This is the year for AR. And, I would say like maybe 2 years ago, it actually did a little bit in the consumer sector around virtual reality. But also 2 years ago, I was working on augmented reality and virtual reality applications for the government, and we were considered bleeding edge. Like they were, just ready to start paying people to build those products. Same thing. I had a startup called Heads Up Display. It was the first wearable industrial Internet of Things hardware product. The technology was doable 5 years or 10 years before we did it. We died due to lack of product market fit, because people who buy safety products for industrial companies aren't early adopters, right? I think if we launched 5 years later, we would have had a totally different level of acceptance in the market. So a good idea at the wrong time is a bad idea. And that's again, when you're thinking about your startup and your products, that's something I encourage you to really investigate and do your customer discovery work with actual buyers and try your best to suss out whether they're ready to make purchasing decisions. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. I'll pass the mic. Zach, what does team mean to you, and how do you view it in the success of a company?
Team. So, I mean, I can only speak from my personal experience. I've been pretty lucky in terms of team. So, the key components are all the key people and investors have been smart money that I've brought in for the projects that we've developed. And that team has always been able to overcome challenges that I think another team just wouldn't have insight or understanding about marketplace or how to pivot or resources available to them that we could leverage and learn from too. So when things go sideways, it's really nice to be able to lean back on that team and say, how can we move things forward based on everyone else's collective experience. That's been my personal experience on how that's kind of saved us a few times. And then, when I was starting off, just the vendors and circle of individuals that I worked with, I started at a very young age, so I didn't have that collective group, and have found that now in my career as I'm nearing 40, radically different from when I was, 19, 20. So much more solid core group of attorneys and financiers and HR and everyone else to help add that support layers and help scale everything necessary to really build it to the next level.
Just a little follow on. Do you consider mentors and advisors part of that team structure, and when and how do you engage them?
Absolutely. I tend to find that there's a team of peers. Jack is one of them here, and yourself. I like giving back a lot. I've been mentored a lot by people who've been part of what I'm doing. So the investors and my board of directors and people like that have been mentors to me. That's been kind of the key influences. But I think it's really important to have the whole collective circle to round it out.
Thanks, Zach. All right, let's talk a little bit about ideas. So, Kate, how do you qualify and determine the quality of ideas when you're working on your startups?
So I mean, I've had a lot of ideas, and I think they come cheap, right? There are few ideas that are truly unique that really do get to that next stage. I think getting to that point where you have an idea that actually can turn some revenue and actually have a business model behind it and is actually a good fit in the market at that time, to go back to how important timing is. One of the 4 startups I've been a part of, was a great idea, but the timing with regulations in that particular market were just not going to work. And it's not to say that, with how things changed in the future that it couldn't be a thing then, but at that point in time, that idea was just officially garbage. And it was crazy because we had gone from having this idea that we were so high on 2 months prior, to then getting to a point where we're like, this just cannot move forward. So, I think being able to take the idea to a point where, you even have a viable product can set your company apart as well. I've had that too, where I've been, even fundraising or trying to acquire customers with a company that was, kind of just like faking it till we were making it, if you will. And, I think a lot of founders have gone through that stage too, where like, I'm literally selling mock-ups right now and, praying to God that these just work. But, if you can get through the demo and you have enough confidence to sell, then, you can continue to invest in the development. But, that's where timing is important too. Timing isn't just about your timing for the market. It's, timing your idea in your sales cycle and your development of your company.
So what are some tools you've used to test ideas?
So honestly, some of my favorite ideas are ones that kind of disrupt older ways of doing business. So you're looking at it as like there's obviously a need for this. It was just that this is how it used to be done, and that's just now kind of archaic, right? For the way that we could be doing things. So you're already part of the way there in terms of seeing that there's some need in the market for this type of evolution. So I do like those products or ideas that revolutionize that old way. And then I come from a product background, so just by nature, we're problem solvers. So looking at how the idea or the product is going to fit into the market and what problems is it going to solve. Is it going to shave a ton of time off of some arduous process? Is it going to save a lot of money because you're going to be able to cut costs by reducing workforce or reducing manpower spent on something? I look at it kind of through that product lens. And that's been really helpful. I think, product owners in general kind of see both sides, the business side and the product side of companies. So it's important that, you're not looking at everything, just through one lens, that, you are kind of looking holistically at, is there that fit? Is there maybe even more than one revenue stream? I definitely love having 2 to 3 revenue streams if possible. Just kind of always operate on like a rule of 3. Maybe that comes from my DevOps experience too. We just really like redundancy also. But yeah, I think that all makes a really solid idea.
Well, thanks, Kate. So Jack, as Buffalo's resident super angel,
Clark, I miss you.
how do you evaluate business models? Because I know you look at a lot of them.
Yep. Okay. And can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So how do I evaluate business models? Let me count the ways. So I cannot look at a model in a vacuum. I'll be honest, like I don't even get to the business model until I get through the founders, right? Or the participants, right? The word founder obviously sometimes gets, abused a little bit, but like the people that are the contributing spirits to like get this thing up and off the ground. And so when the same way I evaluate the model, I evaluate the people behind it and the ability to do the two of them. I mean, there are times when I've seen great models and poor drivers of those models, and great drivers and poor models. But a lot of times, to me, it breaks down to reaction, which I can also call like adaptability, the ability to gain credibility, resiliency, and how detailed the story is. So let me kind of go into the 4 of those quickly, right? So like the reaction, the adaptability, like I know I'm a generalist investor typically, right? So, and advisor and participant and friend. And so I always assume that there's got to be somebody that understands the market really well. And in order to like take any type of bet on something, I need to see a company test a model in some way through some type of point of change to see how they react to it, right? I mean, like it was interesting. We had this sweeping event of COVID, and I've been on the record of saying it was a marvelous event to figure out who were the action takers and who were the talkers. Because it didn't matter if you turned out positively or negatively. It depended how you reacted, because again, it described and revealed true character, right? And you don't always get these events, right? Obviously, COVID doesn't happen all the time, but like really, I like to look and say, okay, does your model work? Like, how am I supposed to be a judge of a business model? I can only be a judge of how well something operates. So I like to see a reaction or the adaptability of something. Not that it has to adapt, but when faced with the requirement to do it, how it does it. Again, because I'm not an expert in a lot of the industries I look in, I like to look at the model's ability to gain credibility amongst its peers. And its peers don't need to be the biggest companies. It needs to be people that live and eat and breathe the problem or in the industry or something. And so a lot of times when I do due diligence, I go, the model makes sense to me mechanically, but we don't live in a mechanical vacuum. We live in a real world. So let me talk to a couple of your customers or people you're trying to be customers, or let me introduce you. I'm somebody that I think has a lot of connections. Let me connect you with a couple of my connections and let me see what they think about it, right? And if you can gain the credibility of people that I think have connective state, then that's good. Resiliency, like every startup's going to go through some tough times. I don't care if you're, a billionaire founder backing your own startup and you're just asking for, vanity compliments. Like you're going to go through something tough. And again, like how resilient, like how determined are you to make it through? I do have this belief that the people that can live on, eating all the scraps in the cabinets are the ones that have the longest runway, and so that resiliency matters and that determination matters. And I mean, usually I ask people to tell me the story behind where this came from and where it's going. And the more detailed they can tell me the story, and this again goes back to, are they adaptable? I didn't talk about humility, but like the humility of the company itself, like can it admit it made mistakes and pivot? But like those things come out in the detailed story of where it came from and where it's going. And so a lot of times I ask, people aren't always perfect at describing what they have and how it fits in the market. So when I ask them to tell the story, I'm looking at the story from a different perspective, and I may see the model differently. Maybe I see it blossom in a different way. Maybe I see some rotten parts of it a little bit different, and if they can be open and communicative, that's always helpful. So, I mean, look, like when I look at business models, I want people to be focused. I want them to create narrow, deep wedges. I was talking to a guy today that was an early investor in Carta, and he was talking about how Carta is starting to do and offer secondaries. And I said, Carta might have dreamt that, 10 years ago or whatever when it started, that they would be doing that. But the truth is, they said, cap tables suck. I'm a CFO. I know how much they suck. And we want to make them easy. And oh, by the way, we're going to make lots and lots of friends that know who we are. And when we raise our flag, they're going to see it. And then we're going to start doing other things. And to me, things like that, those kind of, like we got to the heart of it and now we'll expand, kind of clear and hold tactics on some small, minute detail in a very big market are the things I look for.
Thanks, Jack.
Yeah, no problem.
Appreciate that. All right, Ken. What in your eyes, what makes a business VC backable? And then share with us, what value, the funding brings to the founders or the company, and just take it from there.
I look first at the founders or the principals. The punchline is, for me, I look at a strong product and or technical background. That's sort of grounding. I want to know that the team, the core team, can continue to evolve and develop and pivot, because they're inevitably, it's not going to be right. It's not going to be perfect. You're going to have to make changes. You're going to find it. You're going to discover things. You're going to learn things. And by definition, you're going to have to change your original vision. And I want those people that were there at the beginning to be the ones that actually can bring that history with them and remember from whence they've come, and then make those changes accordingly. I don't want to have people that have to relearn all of that because they weren't there at the beginning. So I'm pretty dogged about sort of, you know, founders, having them have a long runway, if not sort of running the company over time, because, you know, they can adapt, they can evolve, and frankly, it's cheaper. You know, when I have entrepreneurs that come to me and say, I've got this great idea, give me some money, I'm going to go find technical people to go execute. I go, no. You're talking to the wrong person. That's not me. That's not who I want the people that are actually going to build a product to be the people that I back. And so that's really a grounding for me. And I say that as a guy who, you know, I'm not a computer scientist. I'm not an engineer. You know, a lot of people think I am because I've led software companies for the last 24 years or so. But one of the things I've learned, and I have a great respect for, is what I don't know. And I really kind of focus on surrounding myself with people that are way smarter than me, and that can go execute. So that's sort of a first principle for me. And I really want teams to come with, you know, a prototype. They've actually skinned their knees, you know, they paid their dues. They have more than a schematic and more than they actually have something. And from there, I can begin to sort of ask stupid questions, and we can kind of have that dialogue about why it works and what doesn't work, and is it modular enough, and hopefully it's very software based. I have, you know, I like software generally. Hardware is needed sometimes to get the real estate, you know, to be able to, you know, to go forward. But at the end of the day, you know, software is the thing that allows you to be extensible and continue to go forward. You may adapt to hardware over time, but I'm a software biased, a software bigot, if you will, because I think that's the thing that allows you to continue to adapt. A perfect example of that is I'm a co-founder of you know, speaking to Clark, I'm a co-founder of a company up in Seattle, Proprio Vision, that I co-founded with a pediatric neurosurgeon and professor of computer science. And they sort of dragged me into this, and I don't like med tech, but because I don't understand it, but they convinced me, and basically it's virtual reality for surgeons, but it comes out of a specific use case that a pediatric neurosurgeon has, which is like, I'm working on the spines of these little kids and I can't see enough. I don't have enough room. I can't actually, you know, and I've got these 2-hour surgeries, 3-hour surgeries, 4-hour surgeries, and I've got these binoculars, these loops on my glasses, and they're very heavy and it's not ergonomic. And so he's working with Josh Smith, who's the professor of computer science and engineering, and he's great on computer vision. And they gotta say, why don't we do this? And they get an idea and they get a prototype and they drag me into their lab, and I go, this is really scary for me, but you know, if we can kind of focus on the software, maybe we can get it done. And timing is the big issue here, because as you've said, you know, virtual reality, augmented reality, I've always believed that stuff's never going to really take off until it's about solving a problem largely in the enterprise as opposed to entertainment. Entertainment's cool, but you know, enterprises pay for things that help them, you know, move forward and make money. So anyway, long story short, that's an example of kind of the things that I can geek out on and I can get really excited about. And, you know, so bring me a prototype, tell me your use case, tell me why it's important, and then let's think about timing, because I benefited from timing and timing has kicked my ass. So, you know, you still have to really, really consider timing, as was said before. I'll stop there.
Thanks, Ken. I also just want to point out that, like, when you switched into founder mode and you got super juiced about, you know, your product and your company, I loved that. And you know, we're talking about team and what people are looking for, and I think that is something that all investors look for is people that are just so passionate about what they're working on. So thank you. So the interesting thing is, as the moderator watching all of the responses, almost everyone included a component that was spoken about by someone else on the panel. So go back and watch the replay, and you'll catch those. But now I want to kind of move around a little bit and pivot, other questions, and then we'll move into Q&A. So bring your questions into the Q&A section at the bottom of the Zoom meeting, and I'll start dishing those out soon. But for right now, Zach, talk to us about funding in your experience.
Funding, so much fun. Ideally, it depends on how big the idea is, and the different stages. I've done service businesses that really haven't required a lot of funding, and I've done large manufacturing projects that have required millions and millions in funding. So it's setting your trajectory right and really understanding your return on what that capital is going to be used for, and how quickly you can pay it back, and making sure that the funding adds value too. Ideally, there's ways to get money out there, plenty of ways to get capital. But finding smart capital that comes along with it, with someone behind that money that adds value to, is a force multiplier. And I think when I've always looked for capital and funding, that's always what I've looked for. Someone could also be part of the team. It's not just cash. We can get access to cash, but I need that cash to come with an added value of insight and connections and on a broader spectrum of that tends to be what I tend to look for in that funding. And funding's tough, especially for founders, because it distracts you from running the day-to-day operation. So you only have so much time in a day, and you're distracting yourself from the day to go raise the capital you need to get to this next stage. And so you really have to be prepared and understand and make a solid plan about when you go about doing that.
Thanks, Zach. All right, Kate, coming back your direction. When you think about, team at an early stage, and then in your experience, with companies that have raised funding and the teams had to expand rapidly to accept that growth, give us some thoughts and how you've approached that with the teams you've worked on.
Honestly, it's funny because I feel like for a lot of the teams I've worked on, we've had people who 100% of the team were not totally experienced. But enough of that team was experienced, and the remaining balance of that team was super passionate and just had that hunger gene that they could make it work. I was one of those people. I mean, I didn't come into, my second startup as a product manager. I had no product experience. The company didn't even want to hire me at first because they were like, you don't even have healthcare experience or EMR experience. Like, why do you even want to work here? And I made my case, and they were like, well, you were a rower in college, you'll work hard. And that was literally the only reason I got hired. But because of that, because, somebody took that leap of faith on me, I was loyal, and I was like, I'm just going to, work my butt off, and I'm going to learn everything. I'm going to ask all the stupid questions to all the smart people in this company, and I'm going to learn everything I need to know. And, just kind of by osmosis of working on a lot of these, hard projects that we had, I was able to become a leader in the space and mentor a lot of the other people around me. And I think when you can create a culture like that, that's super important, because then your culture is sort of feeding the team, and you don't have, a ton of burnout because people are looking out for each other, and you have a team that, can rise through the ranks. You can hire from within. And, maybe somebody did start in an account management position, but they're super technically focused, and you didn't realize that when you hired them, and they're great as, a customer support specialist on the technical side. I think we really saw that in our last company. We were like, everyone's on the right bus. They might not be in the right seat, but we're on the right damn bus, and this is great. And that bus was the culture. It was just like glue for that company, and that really made a big difference. And that's been important for me in Cloud Insight. We're starting off small, and as we grow, it's really important to just have a solid team and a solid culture so that that can grow organically.
Thanks, Kate. Yeah, I think one of the things that I always try and remember when I'm working with really early stage companies is like every hire you make is like an extremely large percentage of your team, right? So those first hires
Yeah.
are so key. It's very important to take your time and figure out and make sure that you have cultural alignment along with, you know, the technical capabilities that those roles entail.
Mhm.
All right, Jack, as the only, I think, unless I didn't miss something on Ken's resume, as the only unicorn founder on this call, talk to us about funding and the difference between raising seed capital and raising series later in the alphabet. How many, well, I don't know what round you guys are on right now, but.
It is the amount of your soul that you have left at the end of it, right? At seed round, you just give up a little bit of soul. At the end of it, you're just bastardized, right? I mean, no, but it's, look, I mean, it's totally different, right? I mean, the earlier the money you raise, the harder it is to raise. Because if you think about it from the investor point of view, the bigger risk they're taking, right? By the time you get to, I mean, I got guys all the time that are like, what do I do? What do I do? And I go, raise the money where you can, when you can, right? That's the best strategy I can think of. Because like in the beginning, forget the fact that COVID kind of put us all on like tumble low in the dryer and everything's kind of in different places now, you know, but like, you know, when you get to the point of having 5 million MRR, there's 1,000 people that will fund you, right? It's like, and the truth is we probably don't do a good enough job of talking people that late. But early on, it's tough. I mean, like, I've been part of a lot of early stage fundraising, and there's a reason why they call it friends, family, and fools, right? I mean, it's look, we're in Buffalo. We don't have anybody currently giving any venture capital money out in Buffalo today. So who's going to be your lead? They got to be from out of town. Otherwise, you got to get like a wacky angel, right? That makes it really difficult. Where when you're a Series B investor, a Series C, or even an A, like these guys will, and again, I'm talking more pre-COVID, but like you can get that money to follow you to where you are. So it's really difficult. I mean, especially if you're in the Buffalo area trying to raise money right now, a Series seed round is tough. It is the toughest round. And we haven't had a lot of winners around here, right? I mean, like even like ACV included, there's only a couple guys that have taken money off the table in a secondary. And not all of them have done angel investing. So, you know, we're not necessarily creating the role models to do it locally. So it makes it tough, you know? Look, I mean, there are good places that you can go where you can at least hope to find capital, right? If you're a UB alumni or using UB technology, they're pulling together a seed fund. Marnie's got some money. The Buffalo Angels have some money, right? But the truth is you're probably gonna have to get off your ass, or these days, I guess, just zoom around on the Zoom thing and figure out a way to get in front of some angels that are gonna make some noise and that are going to help celebrate you and push you forward. If you're in that seed stage round, because it's tough. I mean, Kate and them have been, you know, raising a Cloud Insight for a while. I'm a small investor with them. Zach went through it with Ruse. I mean, at least software is sexy. Like small, like, you know, ethnic dumplings, which is the category of pierogi in, is not like something people are dying to get into, right? You know? So even though like it's got really good like metrics on it, so it's tough. It's really tough. I mean, it's something we need to fix in Buffalo. We need a seed fund here to make this a little bit easier. But I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. Ken, coming back around to you. So you talked about identifying the founders, the principals, the team first. How do you look at ideas? And feel free to wander into business model while you're there.
You know, I do start with this kind of basic theme, which is a bit dangerous from a timing perspective. This, you know, is this inevitable? Is it something that, you know, is going to happen? I'm a big sci-fi fan. The thing I love about sci-fi and always have since, you know, I was in elementary school is it was a way to kind of, you know, participate with people around looking around corners. So, you know, that's kind of one of my starting points. And then from there, you know, the ideas for me are about then kind of, it's almost like horse racing. You know, if you're a handicapper, you kind of have to ask yourself, how is the race going to shape up? Who's going to make the lead? Who's going to be staying close? Who's going to try to come from a long way behind? Because you kind of have to look at the whole landscape and ask yourself, you know, if you go down this path, are there going to be fast followers? Or, you know, one of my observations, having, you know, sort of had big company life and then a lot of different lives, small company lives, and then now, you know, big boards. One of the reasons I hang out on large public company boards is because it gives me a great window into opportunities. Big companies, you know, they do this TAM thing all the time, kind of back-asswards. They look at the TAMs and they say, oh, it's not big enough. That's only $1 billion, $2 billion, $3 billion TAM. Big enough for us. We can't spend time on that. And then I say, well, if there, excuse my language, if there's a tight team out there that has a great idea, and they can actually step in and own that space and drive it from a very low level, you know, a $2 or $3 billion TAM is plenty big enough for them to create a really, really big company. And oh, guess what? If they dominate that market and really build it and grow, all of a sudden it's a $10 billion or whatever. And those big companies end up buying that business for, like, you know, 5 times what they thought that TAM that was too small for, or more. So for me, I love the barbell effect because it helps me understand where are the holes in the market that smaller teams, earlier teams can exploit. So that's one of the games that I play personally as I'm trying to look around corners, is, you know, sort of observing, you know, where the holes are, where the big boys and girls are going to miss something. Because guess what? If you look at every sort of 10 to 15 year cycle, the top 10 companies or so tend to turn over. And the reason is because they miss these opportunities and other companies come in, and, you know, even if you don't make it to an IPO, you can have a very nice exit, the kinds of things that you know, Jack and others have had an opportunity to take advantage of. On the other side of the coin, looking for, because I'm in the software space, technology is really important to what we do, and trying to find talent is like one of the biggest challenges. It is absolutely one of the biggest challenges on the deep tech side. My last company, I co-founded, my investment partner and I had a theme around, you know, facial expression measurement. Basically, over a few tequilas, our question was, you know, since the beginning of the machine age, people have been adapting machines. With all the enabling technology, you know, it's now probably a time where machines are going to adapt to us. How's that going to happen? And we kind of went through this process and figured out what we needed to know. And we found an intact team at University of California, San Diego. The technologies that we needed were at the universities. We could have never found the talent out in the sort of working for Google or Facebook, but we could afford the folks at university. So we pulled this intact team of research professors in and built a company. I got to tell you, you know, that's a hard thing for me. It was the hardest assignment I've ever had, is to lead a team of truly brilliant people who have never been in business. And I got to tell that was like, and there was a lot of romance about it. It was fun, but it was brutally hard in a lot of other ways. So I think when you're looking for ideas, you really kind of, it starts with the idea, it starts with the theme, and then it's like, what talent do you need? And then you feel your way forward. So I'll stop there. I'm starting to ramble.
Oh, well, Ken, I appreciate that. And I've also, you know, I ran an R&D shop, and, you know, I brought in a lot of very talented, brilliant people from academia and who hadn't been in business before. And that experience of, you know, we don't have time for certainty, right? Yeah. Like I used to say that, like, if your gut says it's right, start running that direction until you're proven otherwise. And that was like the coachable moment.
I describe it as herding kittens. And you know, like trying to tell this brilliant research scientist lead where he's saying, but Ken, you know, I can't tell you, I can't commit to that because it's research. Who knows? And I'm like, no, we got sprints, we got milestones. You got to get as close. No, those were. I'm having a Zoom wine reunion with my team. We're close. All those folks are up at Apple now. You know, that Face ID thing under the covers is our stuff, and there's some other stuff in the watch. I love those people, but it's a romantic time because I got to tell you, there were some days when I wanted to kill Javier. He's a great guy. He's a great guy.
Well, appreciate that little slice of reality. Thank you for sharing. So we've had some questions in the audience. I want to get to them, and I want to continue to encourage questions. I think the best way is to answer the ones we've already had. Jack has been on the spot typing answers to all of them, but I'd like to open them up to some other voices. So I'm gonna go. Actually, I want to take the first one. How do you make your first hires? You know, so the last team I grew before I had the pleasure of working with Jack, we went, you know, from 2 or 3 people in Buffalo to about 25 people, and so it changes over time. You know, but those and this is counter to. Oh, and let me set a baseline here. I grew up in the like hacker culture of like the early 90s, you know, that didn't have Zoom. It was hours to download pictures. And so I've always looked at the ideas that people are bringing forward. And so in our first hires, I look for folks that have similar ideas to what we have, right? Because when you're moving out, the first 2, 3, 4 people, sometimes it's very important to make sure that they have alignment in like their perspective to you out of the gates, because it's about speed. And it's just about getting the product together, getting the team going, moving as fast as you can to hit that initial escape velocity. And then as soon as you're there, it's about bringing in diversity of ideas from all sorts of different backgrounds, in my opinion, different life experiences, you know, and making sure that you have these outside voices on your team, because monocultures work really well in limited settings, and then they die off just as well in situations where there's extreme pressure, you know, put on them. And so if you want a resilient company that is truly innovative, having those different voices are very important. So when we hired, you know, employees 5 on, we had basically kind of objectives, right? Like we thought of what are the outcomes desired from this hire. And when we hired for technical threshold and cultural objective, right? So you can train people in new skills. It's very hard to change personalities in the timeline that a business needs to operate. And when we look at that cultural fit, people often think it means they belong here because they seem like everyone else in this company. That is not good cultural development. It is about knowing yourself and doing surveys within your team, and as a people manager, looking at the shape of the personnel and what are their backgrounds and what are their biases, and are they aggressive or are they conservative, and then identifying the holes in your team. Like if you were to put a matrix of all those things together, look for the holes, and then when you're hiring, having your team hire to those holes, right? And I think that is you know, something that I haven't heard talked about a lot, but I think it gave us a very well balanced team later on in the company's development. And then, you know, specifically, you know, making sure that you're offering up opportunities to people who maybe haven't, you know, had them. And then also fighting. I mean, it's a constant battle internally, because as you're scaling your team, you're moving up further in this hierarchy, and you have less direct impact on the hiring process. And so you have to go back to your managers who are the hiring managers all the time and spot check and reinforce what you mean by diversity of ideas and people and backgrounds, because there's unconscious bias, and there's lots of good literature on that. I would highly encourage everyone to go Google Harvard's unconscious bias tests, so you can see, you know, immediately like, oh, I have them too, right? We all have them. Because I had moments with my team where they were like, hey, we want to hire this. It was an intern. And I was like, well, what about the other intern that I said on her meeting, you know? And they're like, well, we don't think she's a good cultural fit. And then I was like, okay, well, let's take the names and everything over it. And I'm going to look at their resumes, their interviews, and we're going to talk through it. And then eventually they were like, oh yeah, oh, you're right. That is the right call, you know, and we had mistaken it, but we didn't have enough female representation on our team at that point. And the statistics show that if you don't have any female interviewers, the chance of getting a female hire is very low. But when we went back to what are the outcomes we want and what is the work history and those things, and we're tried to blind ourselves to it, we made what was the right choice. So anyways, those early hires are important, and it's very important to think strategically about it. So I'll cap it there. But next up, so Zach, this one's coming to you because physical products. Talk about building a pierogi empire.
It's we started with so many different efforts, and before we could do anything, we had to build a brand. So we got into the restaurant business, which was never really an ideal place that I wanted to play, but it allowed us to grow a manufacturing in a facility, and then find a partner like Rosina, where now we can do millions and millions of pounds, without any question of whatsoever, and get a strong price point.
So how did you prototype? I guess more specifically, like how did that work?
So having the restaurant was, initially we started with just out of the kitchen, right? We'd bring them to bars and bring them to the chefs and be like, hey, put these out on the menu as a special and let us know what you think. Total backdoor, like grandma's kitchen. And we would put them out there and we would try different fillings. We would sit around and be like, fill it with buffalo chicken wing dip. I bet you that tastes great. And we'd do things like that, and we'd throw it out there. And we had some that were horrible. And we had some that were just off the charts delicious. And then when we got to the restaurant, we could test specials. We could test all these things. And we're running R&D all the time. And we could see from, the small restaurant we had. And it also helped prove us and market through the food service industry. So as we were testing our own restaurant, other industries would look at it and be like, wow, this is one of your top sellers. It's a great place to play. But it's constantly going back and reinventing. And then as you change your machinery, and you increase your automation, there's a ton of R&D that comes along with that too. Gluten it breaks down, and you're going to run into all these same sorts of issues with any sort of product, right? Whether it's food-based or a consumer product. So there's just a lot of learning, a lot of trying to be patient, but also drive everything forward as fast as possible. There's kind of a delicate balance there. And, eventually you get to a real sweet spot that you're like, we have it dialed in. The consumer can't taste the difference from the changes we just made. We've improved the efficiencies. We've improved the price point and everything else. The product has, and then you also get pushback from the people you're selling to. Wegmans came back and said, we want clean labels. We want new packaging designs. We need box counts. And that all changes everything that you do behind the scenes. So it's a constant learning and R&D and reinventing yourself and figuring out what is worth putting the time and effort into and what is not in terms of return.
Cool. I want to jump in, and if you don't mind, I'm going to talk a little bit about hardware products, right? So I made the I guess mistake, I don't know, of building a hardware product. When you think of hardware products, the unstated reality is you've decided to build a device, an electronic device, a physical packaging for it, firmware that runs that device, an app that probably runs on a phone, and then cloud infrastructure that does things and probably has an administrative dashboard. So by building a hardware device, you're committing yourself to about 5 products out of the gate, most likely. And so when we think about prototyping, never build a prototype that you don't know what you want to learn from it. Okay, so I'll say it again because it's kind of a complex sentence, but like every time you go to invest money in testing a thing, you should clearly define what you're testing. A lot of times I see companies burn capital on just cosmetics for lack of a better term, and that is a way to run out of cash. You should always have a clearly defined outcome goal. We're building this thing to test this market, to test this specific characteristic around it, and then try through your best ability to make sure you have a baseline, if you can, going through. And sometimes the baseline is the substitute, right? So what are people doing today to solve this problem? Okay, go sit there with a stopwatch and count their efficiency on it, so that when you build your prototype, you can have the white paper that says we improved it by X when you go to sell. When it comes to software prototyping, software prototyping is a lot cheaper than hardware prototyping, not only in dollars, but in time. So we ran, in my R&D shop, we ran agile development on our software teams, on our mechanical engineering teams, on our firmware teams. And the hardware team was the hardest because, you go into the shop and you go build a thing. It's going to take you hours or days. Sometimes it takes days to set up the capability to build the end product. And when you talk about electronics hardware, until you're oftentimes shipping out boards, having them made, populating them yourselves. I mean, you could have an iteration time of 2 weeks on an electronics hardware platform, whereas like firmware or software, I can change the code, recompile it, and we're good to go. And so you have to approach that differently because it is a different investment than software. And so you have to build in better design practices and try and solve it earlier. You can be a little bit sloppier and faster in software, a lot sloppier and faster in software than you can be in hardware. So it's very important to realize that. The last hint that I would give out of my experience is go upstream, like build relationships with hardware vendors who want the 1 million unit order from you when you have the economies of scale, because oftentimes they have things they can do with their network and their supply chain to help you prototype quicker, faster, cheaper. So, all right, we got some other open questions for Ken. What are some of your trusty gut tools for evaluating timing if you have functional prototypes, but they are positioned speculatively? Folks have to get them from skeptical to excited and on board before getting a good signal. So I guess the question is, well, I just said it, but like how do you evaluate early prototypes?
Well, it's definitely gut, and it's definitely more art than science. But to the extent that you try to apply science, it's really getting into the marketplace more broadly and asking really a lot of questions about how much pain is in the market. Can you begin to define or quantify a level of pain in the market that says that it rises to a level that people are recognizing why they have pain, and they're to the point where they can begin to say, this pain, I'm willing to pay X to make this pain go away. One of the challenges is that oftentimes, we have ideas, we have something that we feel a lot of conviction about, but the market really doesn't have any expectation that there's a solution to it. They don't really understand that there's why they're feeling the pain, or they're just they're like frogs in boiling water. So because of that, it's hard to get someone to say, yes, I want that, because until they experience it, they can't really believe that they need it. Those are the ones where it's really hard to get the timing right. And at the end of the day, if I'm going to walk into the murky, ambiguous area where I'm not certain, but my gut says there's something there, you better have a shitload of capital. That's the only, or you have to have the confidence that you can raise a lot of capital to weather that storm and give you the runway to get home. If you go in thin, chances are not you're going to get hit upside the head by a 2x4.
Yeah, undercapitalization is definitely a killer. I think a lot, that's, you don't really have a choice when you first start, but it's definitely, like to Jack's point, I think we're hearing that a lot in this conversation. Raise the money when you can, where you can, take it. I've worked for companies that have raised rounds just because the economic conditions have been too good for too long, and they're just waiting for the floor to drop out. And so, let's close a round before that happens.
Yeah, but Jack's point was spot on, which the early point that he made, which was basically figure out, how much you can bootstrap, how far you can get, because the more you bootstrap, the more you get, the more data you can get, before you raise the capital. So I really, there's a point there. I mean, I'm working with, we're looking at a deal right now where the founder and their team are brilliant. They're very capable. They've been bootstrapping it, and they have a great idea, which I really love. But and they've been pulling it together the best they can. Now they've raised a lot of safe notes, and so when I look at the cap table, and I look at kind of what we would need, to kind of make this Series Seed investment effectively, and what we want to make sure that the founder and the team still own, because, you know, if we went into our traditional model, they would not have enough. And we want them to have enough to be all in. And so now it's kind of a question of, gosh, can we recap this thing to make sure that, you know, we have what we need, the founders absolutely have what they need, and would the other folks be willing? So it gets really complicated, but when you have a good idea, somebody's going to help you figure that out. So this is an interesting dance, and the point that Jack raised, I think, is a really critical one. And the last thing I'll say, and I'll try to shut up here very quickly. What you're talking about in Buffalo is very similar to what I'm in a lot of communities. Seattle is my home. I live in Denver, Cherry Hills Village, Denver. I'm San Diego for my last company, Bay Area, you know. All of those markets are struggling, except for the Bay Area. That's the king of the hill in terms of capital. But on all the other markets, it's like, gosh, we don't have a critical mass of capital to really run hard. How do we get talent follows capital. It's not the other way around. So to the extent you have people like Jack, who's a super angel, you have and to the extent you have any other corporations that can, you know, that are looking to do sector funds, you can pull capital in from, you know, New York or Boston or whatever. This is the battle that every other community outside of Silicon Valley is fighting. Like, how do you get a critical mass of capital to really, you know, kick your entrepreneurial engine? And you guys have a nice, great area with a high quality of life. That's probably your best asset. And so, you know, just doing what you're doing is sort of part of the game. And I would just say, don't feel bad. Every other community is fighting this same battle. Full stop.
We have a really good football team here too, Ken. I don't know if you heard about them, but they're kind of 3-0 right now.
Well, I live in Denver, but I'm a closet Seahawks fan, so we got a pretty good team too.
All right, touche.
All right, Zach, in 1 minute or less, because I know Kanishka is going to want to take us out of here. You were excited about answering the same question that Ken had. Can you add to that?
For which exact one is the
the one that you volunteered for? You're like, I want to answer this live. So.
Oh no, I just closed it out because it was answered. I wasn't.
Oh, okay.
You know, I thought Ken.
You crushed it. There isn't anything to add to your answer.
I thought he did a great job. I didn't have much to add. There was one question of other ways to test food products. I saw festivals is one of the ways that we tested it. That went over really well, and you get a lot of consumer feedback during those. So if you get a chance, that's what I would suggest.
I also like Jack's response in that one. It was basically just get out there, give it away. And if you don't have a license to distribute, make sure you have an exit path to run like hell.
That's exactly right. Yeah, no, that's one way to do it. Having
I'll test it.
USDA and the FDA and a number of other acronyms, I would suggest that you follow the rules.
Kate, any last thoughts?
I mean, you know, it's a lonely place being a founder, but the upside of that is that I think you have a very unique opportunity to surround yourself with a lot of people that you probably would not have otherwise met. You know, in one of the responses I mentioned that, you know, I never formally hired an executive coach, but I did enroll in a lot of leadership development programs that I, you know, could kind of do like, you know, one morning a week or one morning a month or something, just to kind of make it work with my schedule, to just connect myself to some other mentors that were out there. I think finding personal development mentors and finding business advisors is very much like dating. You know, you really want to make sure that that's a good fit, but, you know, once you really do find the people that, you know, you trust and you really value their opinion, and they're kind of the person that, you know, with a lot of the, you know, checkpoints that you come to in your own company's growth and your own development, you're like, I need to run this by them. That's kind of when you know that they're probably a good fit. You want to ask them if they'll be your mentor or be your advisor. But that's been, you know, really tremendous for my companies and for my own development, is, you know, a lot of other people that have, you know, either taken a chance on me or, you know, just, you know, given me a hand and helped me out a little bit, you know, when I needed it. So, you know, don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to talk about your product. I know that's another thing. A lot of founders feel like they need to put everything under an NDA, and at the end of the day, it's just not that way. You'll know when you really need to put an NDA out there. But talk about it, get feedback, let people taste your product if it's a food product. You're constantly doing your market research. When you're talking about it, you can get feedback from places that you might not have even expected. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, it looks like we're running out of time here. I just want to say thank you to Jack and Ken, Zach, Kate, Madonna, and Kanishka for putting this panel together. Thank you to the audience for attending. All the other Buffalo Startup Week organizers. Make sure you check out their events. And also thank you to our sponsors, Upstate Venture Connect and Techstars, for helping to make this possible this year. So Kanishka, you want to take us out of here?
Yeah, thanks guys. I put the event link on the chat. There's a bunch of events for the rest of the week. There's a networking event tomorrow, a few great events from the other tracks. We got finance, design, legal, startup 101, and there's one more.
Game development.
There we go. Yeah, a bunch of great events this week. So please make sure to show up. Again, thank you to all the speakers. Thanks for being here, Clark. Thank you for moderating. This was great. So I'll see you guys on the other events.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
attending.
Bye. Thank you.
Cheers.
Good, everyone. Cheers.
Oh.